Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's webinar on the HR Observer, the Management Challenge with Charles Wilson. And my name is Delna Kama. I'm a part of the production team at Informa, and I'd just like to take you through a couple of housekeeping points that'll tide you through this webinar session. Right. Please wait to the end of the session to type all your questions, and time will be allocated at the end to address all your questions. The link for this presentation will be emailed to you. Do give us a couple of days. And of course, do complete the webinar survey, which will pop up at the end of this session. I'd now like to present our facilitator for this evening, Charles Wilson. Charles enjoys a successful international career with HR and, of course, is an associate a senior associate with Informa. I would like at this point to highlight that Charles has examined the development and played a leading role in the national development schemes in Oman, the UAE and Kuwait. His major professional interests lie in the professional development of nationals, management education, and of course, cross-cultural management. His current research is also centered on employee relations in the Gulf region and international human resource development with an emphasis on leadership. Welcome, Charles.
Thank you very much, Delna, and good evening, everybody. I'm really looking forward to this webinar and looking forward to hearing from you at the end. First of all, let me set the scene. What I want to emphasize is that people management belongs to all managers and supervisors. People overcomplicate business and they overcomplicate organizations. There are really only three things which are important: people, materials, and money. Now, apart from that, what I want to emphasize is that HR is not a department. If we look at HR simply as a department, then we're looking at HR in isolation. HR belongs to everybody. Everybody, every supervisor, every manager manages those three things: people, materials, and money. So we really need to grasp the fact that HR is not a department. Human resources belongs to everybody. Also, let us make sure that human resources is not a dumping ground. Now, what do I mean by human resources not being a dumping ground? What I mean is this, that so often managers look at human resources and as soon as they have a people problem, they dump it onto HR or the HR department. That is not right. We pay managers to manage those three things: people, materials, and money. The first person to handle a people problem is the manager, him or herself. Now, I hear this expression, people are our most important asset, and I hear it 300 times to the power n. But do we really believe it? Do we care for our people in terms of their financial care, their spiritual care, and their psychological care? Now, I'm sure that you've all read the Management Challenge. I wrote the Management Challenge because I wanted to provoke ideas. Let's move on and think about, can you read the signs of your people? What are some of the greatest problems in management today? And I really enjoy your ideas at the end of this to see what you think are the greatest problems in management today. I think we've got two problems. The first one is leadership, and the second one is stress. Now let's take stress. My own research in the region would indicate from a sample of 166 organizations spread from Amman to Oman that only 22% were addressing work-related stress. Now, that is an appalling statistic. People should be doing much more about addressing work-related stress. We work in a stress-laden society, and it's very important for us to address that. So I'd be interested in your views on that. Are you promoting change? Now, lots of people write lots of books on change, but if you want the best person on change, then read John Kotter, who is a Harvard professor, and his work on change is excellent. Also, Dale Carnegie, the consultancy, produced some work on change. Let's have a look at management attitudes. Is training looked at as a liability or an investment in your future? Everybody who goes away on training or is trained within your organization should be looked at as an investment. The quality of working life. You may or may not know that expression, but what is it? It's about balancing work and life itself. And if you're not balancing work and life, then you're in trouble. Traditionally, we measured productivity in terms of the numbers of people we employed and the amount of capital employed. Life has changed. We're now looking for those were absolute quantifiable measures. We're now looking for ideas, for intellectual capital amongst our people. And what is intellectual capital? Well, simply, if you take a group of people and you add all their brain power together, that is your intellectual capital. Are you using it? And are you using it to your advantage? So what of the non-quantifiable things, the things which are very difficult, the soft skills which are difficult to say, well, we've gained an advantage from sending somebody away on this. It's difficult to measure. I appreciate that. But it's important to try and measure the soft skills. What are the soft skills? Leadership, communication, delegation, things of that nature. And what of the unwritten psychological contract, sometimes called the social contract? Now that is the perception of the employer and the employee and what their mutual rights are towards each other. And if we don't understand that, then we're missing out enormously. Job descriptions. You've all got job descriptions, I'm sure. But are you a slave to your job descriptions? Are you tied down? Are your job descriptions chipped in concrete somewhere? Job descriptions need a little flexibility in them. You need to ask a simple question. That simple question is, if you're interviewing somebody at the beginning of their employment, what else can you do? And you'll be amazed what is revealed to you. The same in appraisal. You should be asking in appraisal, fine, you're reviewing the whole year or the 6 months or however long your appraisal system is. But then you should be asking, what else can you contribute? Where can you move your job description on? Job descriptions are dynamic. They should be being built on. And we measure performance. Now, if you really want to know my views on measuring performance, look back on the Informa website at my previous webinar, The Death of Appraisal, which was done on the 28th of May 2015. And you will see there that I emphasize this business of what else can you do? Where could you contribute more? And if you're not getting that, you're not making the best use of your intellectual capital. So don't cry on my shoulder if you don't get the results that you're looking for. You know, your people may very well come to work every day with a brain full of ideas. And they may take that brain away at the end of the day, and it's still full of ideas, but they never get asked to open those ideas. I want you to imagine people coming to work with a rucksack on their back, full of good ideas, but they never get asked to open it. And why? Because you don't ask them. So brain power and ideas. How are you seeking those out? How are you getting the best out of your people? Well, let's ask a simple question. Do you have an ideas scheme? Now, I don't mean a box screwed on the wall, because if you put a box on the wall with the word suggestions on it, the only suggestions you'll get will probably be rude and related to how quickly you should leave the company. I'm talking about a constructive ideas scheme. Now, there are some great ones around the world, and if you look at those ideas schemes, then you will get the ideas and the suggestions out of your people, but it needs to be structured. Now, it's usually either an ER or an HR responsibility to run the ideas scheme, and I'd be delighted if somebody wants to know more about that when we come to questions. I'm sure that many of you have heard of the 80-20 principle, which was the invention or the discovery of an Italian economist called Pareto. He discovered that 20% of Italy's population held 80% of the wealth. What does that mean for you in HR? What it means is that 20% of your people are actually producing 80% of your work, 80% of your output. So what do? We choose them, we place them, we develop them. And do we listen to them? You know, God in his great wisdom gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Now you've got to ask why. Listen to your people more. Your people will make you a winner. If you listen and you develop their ideas and you encourage them, then you will win. There are some acid measures. How much do you spend on recruiting? Are you an employer of choice? Are people knocking on your door? Do you have a reputation in the marketplace which says to people, that is a good place to work? Because if you don't, you'll then be spending money on re-recruiting. We spend a massive amount of money on recruiting. Get it right. Train your people to recruit properly. Train your people to look for the right competencies. And train your people to ask that question, which we referred to earlier, what else can you do? Who are your effective recruiters? Well, if your current employees are not your best recruiters, you've got a problem. Your current employees should be your best recruiters. Why? Because they should be encouraging people to join you. Now, you already have a reputation, whether you like it or not. People know in the marketplace whether you're a good employer or a bad employer. So examine yourself. Have a careful look at what is going on in your organization. Audit yourself. Once you've looked at yourself, ask yourself that question. Do you like what you see? Would you, do you recommend your organization? If a young person came along to you, just left school, college, university, and said, what's it like to work for wherever you're working? What do you say to them? Because you will only create yourselves into being an employer of choice if you can answer that question in the real positive terms that I'm looking for. So, right, that's all I want to say. Over to you. I look forward to your questions and we'll take them now. Okay, we're waiting for the first question to come in. Just hang on and we'll be there with you in a few seconds. All right, hang on. We're still waiting for the first question to come in. We're having a little technical difficulty. Here we are. Right. Anishka has asked, how do you think we can best cut our recruitment costs? Great question. Thanks, Anishka. Now, how can you cut your recruitment costs? Well, I challenged you with what you are spending on recruitment and what you're spending on re-recruitment. The answer is to make yourselves into an employer of choice. My questions for you there are very simple. Do you deserve the youth and talent of your nation, wherever you happen to be, to knock on your door? Do you treat them properly when they join you? Have you got a structured induction program? Have you got clear career paths spelt out for people who join you? Because if you have, then you have built yourself into being an employer of choice, and you will dramatically cut your recruitment costs because people will be knocking on your door as opposed to your having to go out and recruit hard. I hope that answers your question, Anishka. Right, we've got another question here. It's a reply from Anishka. Thanks. One more question. Could you further explain the 80-20 principle? Yeah. As I said, the 80-20 principle was invented by Mr. Pareto. I know what he had for breakfast, spaghetti, because he was an Italian. Now, that has now been translated into all sorts of areas. If you look at the 80-20 principle, statistically, it can be applied to all sorts of things. And if statistically it is applied to you and your organization, you will find that 20% of your people are actually producing 80% of your work. Now you need to identify who those people are. How do we identify who they are? By having an appraisal scheme that works. Now, usually appraisal schemes are done badly. Look back at my webinar on the death of appraisal, and you will see my very formed views on appraisal. Appraisal, if it's useful as a piece of management information, needs to be done properly. So people need to be trained to appraise. They also need to be trained to be appraised. A very rare thing. People think that as soon as a manager becomes a manager, he's presented or she's presented with an appraisal form, they can do it. They can't, and they usually do it badly. So if you want to get the best out of your people, make sure that you're getting the best management information. In that way, you will identify who your 20% are, and you can then put some money into them to keep them. That doesn't mean that you ignore the 80% totally. What it means is you're looking for people in that 80% who are going to move into your 20% in due course of time. I hope that explains the 80-20 principle a little further for you. Right, yes, please do that. Go through that webinar. Lastly, Anishka is asking, would you please explain further what you mean by HR not being a dumping ground? Yes, I will, with the greatest of pleasure. HR becomes a dumping ground if managers do not do their job properly. All managers manage the three things which I spoke about. And if you remember, those were money, materials, and people. And the most important thing of those is people. Now, it is every manager and supervisor's job to manage their people. That is what you pay them for. If, as soon as they have a people problem, they're knocking on your door, send them out, get rid of them, and say, try and solve the problem yourself. They may need help, they may need some tuition, they may need some coaching, they may need their hand holding because they're frightened to do the things that you do in the normal course of HR duty. But do not be dumped upon. You are paying managers to manage people, things, and money. Make sure that they do indeed manage their people. Right, I've got a question here. Who do you think is responsible for determining work-life balance? Is it the company, the manager, the employee, or the market? Well, let's have a look at that. Work-life balance is about building a quality of working life, often simply referred to as QWL in HR terms, within your organization. Now, you all had a favorite teacher, didn't you? Remember that favorite teacher? Well, my favorite teacher, God rest his soul, was a man called Mr. Whitehead. And Whitehead used to say to us, boys, your lives are divided into three. You spend a third of your life in bed, asleep, a third of your life trying to enjoy yourself, and a third of your life at work. Try and make sure that you choose work which is contributory to your mental health, that you can do something proper so that when it comes to enjoying yourself, you can enjoy yourself fully. And when it comes to putting your head on the pillow at night, you can do it and go to sleep and wake up refreshed and ready to go to work in the morning. So where you can, try to choose what you do and to choose that very carefully. Make sure that you've got yourself into the right career. If you make a mistake, get out. It's as simple as that. And if you think that you've got people within your organization who have made an error with regard to their choice of profession, then counsel them. See if you've got somewhere where they can go. And if you haven't got somewhere where they can go, then gently suggest that they should vote with their feet, leave you, and go and work for somebody else, somewhere else, who has got something that they can actually do and do with pleasure. So try to make sure that you've got the right people in the right place at the right time, at the right price, in the right role. My 5 rights. So please try and get that correct. If you do that, then you will effectively balance work and life. Where people have got problems, then attack those problems. And as I say, one of the big problems that we've got to assault in management today is the business of stress. Are you running stress-related programs? Do you help your people? You can't have it both ways. Well-being is about keeping your staff, your healthy staff, well. It's not about getting sick people well. So, for example, if you are balancing lives by looking at what they eat, it's fine if you leave around apples in the organization, but if you leave apples in the organization and you run a staff restaurant which is serving burger and chips, you can't have it both ways. So look at people, look at how they are balancing their lives, and try to help them. I hope that helps you with work-life balance. Yes. When we look at this, we've got my courses coming up, HR1 and HR2. So I urge you that once Informa have decided exactly when I'm going to be doing my ER, my employee relations, and HR1 and HR2 in 2017, have a look at their website, and come and join me, because I'm always interested to hear people's views, and it's great to exchange views like this evening. Right, well, I think that brings us towards the end of what we want to do. And we're saying thank you to everybody. Thank you to the people who put in the questions. Thank you to you for listening. I hope that has generated some ideas for you. And if it has, then we'd be delighted to hear from you. I'm in Dubai at the moment, but it doesn't matter where I am. You can put your questions in and I will answer them when I go home. I've got clear access to the internet and to your emails. And if you want to send me questions in, then send them in through the webinar website. Thank you very much indeed for listening to me. I hope you enjoyed that. I did. Good evening.